Great. Well, I'm going to go ahead and kick us off here. So thanks everybody for joining. We did a similar webinar last week and we enjoyed it. And so we said we're going to do these as long as we're quarantined. We'll do something every week. So we'll post the links on our Facebook and send out invites. I'm happy to have everybody on here. You know, part of working from home is dealing with like the unique sort of challenges and things that we're learning from working from home. So we have some tips and tricks. And today we actually are joined by Ben Molina. He's a city councilman here in Corpus Christi. And we've got Sam Longoria from American Bank. And if you guys have been tracking some of the things in the last week, there's some things that are happening that I think both of these men can speak to. So we're really excited that they were able to join. And we are going to record this and put this on our some of our social media. So you know, the information, we want to get it out there to as many people as we can and try to help. You know, one of the things that Priscilla and I talk about with our customers and other people that we meet in the community is like, you know, when you're working with people's technology, a lot of times it extends into other parts of their business. And so, you know, there's not that much tech in this webinar. It's more about kind of where we are right now as a community and maybe some of the things that we can help. And you know, honestly, I'm working from home for the first time in my life. I've been home now for 2 weeks, and I enjoy just seeing some people's faces on the Zoom calls, and so that's nice, just to have something happen there. So I've got Ben Molina here, and he just joined, got his video up, which is great. I've got some questions for him, and we'll just kind of talk a little bit. But I guess Ben, kind of give us a little update on Corpus Christi's response to the coronavirus and how the city's handling it, and maybe just a little bit of an update on how it's going.
Sure. Well, good morning, and thank you for having me. As you all know, that the city is we're on a stay-at-home order, and that's an order that Judge Barbara Canales has issued for the entire county of Nueces. So that was recently updated to where, per the governor's instructions, there's no social gatherings allowed. It used to be where you can gather up to 10 people in an area. That's not the case anymore. So there shouldn't be any type of social gatherings. There are some exemptions, like grocery stores, other retail operations that are deemed essential to your daily lives. And recently, churches were put on that list also. And as far as what the city's doing is we're following Judge Canales' lead, her being the highest ranking official in Nueces County. She's worked really closely with us, with the city, in crafting the orders. And looking forward here, we're more than likely going to keep them updated to reflect what the governor is ordering for the state.
Okay, great. I guess how's it going? How compliant are people being right now with those orders? Are you hearing that people are doing these things or not? And I ask that because I've been at home, so I know that I'm following the rules, so to speak. I'm not out and about, but you know, if they're, I mean, are people following those rules pretty close?
Just my observation, it seems like people are being semi-compliant, and I say that because I'm still coming to the office. I've told all my employees, just work from home as much as you can. Only come in when you need to. And I'm in here, you know, just taking care of my business. And as I'm out and about, even helping in the community, there's a lot of traffic still, you know, that continues. But I know that there are a lot of people that are staying home, and I'm encouraging everyone to stay home as much as they can. One thing that the city is doing, we just announced yesterday, is in response to a number of calls about people gathering at parks. We're adding additional signage to discourage people or remind people that they shouldn't be congregating and they need to stay at home. And I encourage everyone, just stay at home as much as you can. From my observation, what I can tell, there's some people that are adhering to the orders, and there are some that I really don't know what they're doing. I'm assuming if they're out, they're taking care of their essential business, but I can only speculate.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the park thing. That was actually going to be one of my questions. Here in our neighborhood, we've done some walks and runs, you know, in the afternoon just to get out of the house and and get a little bit of, burn a little bit of energy and do some exercise. But we have seen decent sized groups at like our park that's in the neighborhood. And I just kept wondering, like, man, at some point, are we going to have to be more, I don't know, aggressive or whatever the word is to get people to stop congregating and, in mass like that at a park?
In my opinion, I really think that's the direction we need to go. I really think that we need to, not that we're not taking it seriously, but I just think that we need to um, just be more stringent in the orders. And what we need to do as a community is if you see people, we need to self-police as a community. There are numbers that city and the county have made available to report people that are congregating. So I think that just us as a community, if we see something, we need to make a call.
Sure. So I don't know if anybody else saw this yesterday, but I got an email from somebody that was saying the National Guard's been mobilized, and on Sunday night they're going to lock down the whole state for 2 weeks, and it was kind of this whole big thing. Tell your friends and family. Well, I don't know if it was an April Fool's hoax or just a run-of-the-mill hoax, and it just happened to come out yesterday. But what would the next steps be? What are we going to see happen if things don't turn for the better and they turn, for the worse? What would the next steps look like? Are there some things that you guys are watching, and what would those things be?
Well, some of the things that we're looking out for is we're trying to be proactive. We're dealing with information that changes day by day, and we're trying to respond to that as fast as we can. I think just personally, I think that things are going to get worse before they get better, and that it may come to an actual order to where we are mandated to stay at home to prevent further spread of the virus. One of the things that I'm working on right now is I've had a few hotel owners reach out to me and offer their empty hotels as extra space for possibly the use of using those rooms as extra hospital beds, or even using those rooms as quarantine space for first responders and for our people in the health industry who are on the front lines. So that's one thing that I'm looking at right now.
Okay, great. I guess the kind of next two questions kind of go together. I think, you're a business owner, and I'm sure you're meeting with a lot of other, what does a business owner need to know right now? And then how are we going to know how these restrictions get lifted? Is it going to be gradual, like kind of how they were implemented, where things start to get lifted and a little more lax as we start to come out of this, this virus?
So as a business owner, one thing that, there's sources of information that I think that we all need to be mindful of. One is going to be the city of Corpus Christi, of course. And if you're on social media, the city of Corpus Christi has an active Facebook page. They have an active Twitter account. And then, of course, Nueces County, where the county and the city are doing daily updates every day at 5 o'clock. And those are usually made available via the city's social media accounts and even the local news channels. So definitely, when you're hearing things like Doug, like you mentioned about the National Guard coming through, anything like that, it's got to come from a credible source. So don't believe everything that you hear out there. So any announcements that concern the city are going to come directly from the city or from the county. One of the things that the city's working on right now, as for those who own small businesses, we've created a small business task force, small business recovery task force, and we're looking at money from the Type A and Type B boards to assist those small businesses to help them get through this time. That is going to be presented to the Type A board this Friday, and then it'll be presented to the City Council, and I anticipate that it's going to be approved next Tuesday. We're calling for a special meeting for this, and what we're doing there is we're making approximately $2 million available to small businesses here within Corpus Christi to help with payroll and expenses. and these are going to come in the form of grants or low interest loans. And what we're trying to do is make them easily accessible to the small business owner so that you don't have to have a 30-day wait period or anything like that. We know that small businesses need the money now, and so we want to make that easy for them.
Awesome. Great. That's great. Is there anything else that you'd like us all to know before we move on to Sam?
There's plenty of resources out there. You've got to do some digging. I believe Sam is going to speak to some SBA information, but locally, the Regional Economic Development Corporation, they're working on some things for small businesses, and also Del Mar Small Business Development Center. They have some resources for small businesses to get us through this time.
Yeah. Great. Well, Ben, thanks for joining us today. And I mean, information like this for the community is always great. I appreciate your time. Sam, we're going to go on to you here. And I mean, a couple of questions for you. So Sam's with American Bank. Thanks for joining. I'm going to make sure you're unmuted. It looks like you are. So, how can your banker help during this crisis? You guys have relationships all over town, and maybe some folks on this call, are already customers of your bank, but for you, and your customers, or anybody else in their bank and their banker, what do they need to be doing right now? How can the bankers help, the small businesses right now?
Well, obviously, your banks, they have the conventional sources of financing, but what a lot of people have been kind of interested in right now is the Paycheck Protection Program. And so what I did was actually emailed you a short presentation to probably pass out if you'd like to whoever's participating on the call. But just to give you some information on that, that has actually been passed, and SBA is taking the applications on April 3rd. So right now, it's been a little crazy, but pretty much, the first thing I would tell a business owner is, get with your bank and ask if they are participating in the Paycheck Protection Program. And if they are, they're going to have a application guidelines that they'd like, the customers to follow. That way they can be efficient and fast in acting on this opportunity, this program. And so, the biggest thing with the Paycheck Protection Program is the fact that, the funds, if you're using up to 75% of the funds for payroll, they're going to be forgiven. That'll be a forgiven loan forgiveness. So it can also be used for rent, mortgage, interest expense, or utilities. But keep in mind there will be some homework for the business owner. They'll require payroll reports, just proof of the fact that money's been used for that reason. And with that, I believe after, I think it's 6 to 8 months, I can't recall off the top of my head, the bank will ask for that information as a follow-up. That way they can get the loan forgiven. But, one thing I have been telling customers, because I think there's some misunderstanding, is they're thinking that it's just free money, but it is a loan, but there's an opportunity to have a certain amount forgiven, 100% if you're using it for payroll. So.
So yeah, one of the things that I had read, and maybe you can speak a little bit to this, those of us that are running companies and businesses and have employees, like you said, we want to protect the payroll piece. I think that's the primary goal of this. But one of the examples I read was kind of like, let's pretend there's a restaurant out there, and, they probably spent a lot of money when they first opened their restaurant, buy food, buy supplies, get ramped up and going. They're going to have to do some of that all over again when their restaurant can be open to the public again. So, what other options are there going to be that aren't just for payroll protection, but maybe other things to get ramped up and go again whenever things get back to normal?
So I'm glad you bring that up, because there's another SBA program called the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. And, some real favorable terms for small business owners, and that can be used for anything besides, like I said, payroll. You can include, rent or utilities, but the biggest thing to keep in mind is if you're going to apply for both loans, make sure you're not double dipping, because if you do, then it'll just end up becoming two loans, and there will be no forgiveness on the loans. So on the EIDL, terms will be up to 30 years, and the rate is at 3 3/4. So I mean, it's pretty favorable, and they defer your payments for a year. So pretty good opportunity to help you get back on your feet. And the process is very simple, actually. If you go to SBA.gov, there's a link in there, and also on this presentation, if you do share it with the participants, there's a link directly in there that you can click on, and it'll take you directly there. And it literally takes 10 to 15 minutes to fill out. It's very fast, efficient. The biggest questions they're going to ask you: your sales revenue. They want to know your operating expenses for the year, and what else? Your cost of goods sold. So those are really the only things you need to know for that. At the end of the application, there is a little question that asks if you'd like to receive a loan advance of up to $10,000. That's a grant, and so I've been encouraging people to also take advantage of that. That is, that's not a loan. So,
okay.
It's a pretty good program, outside of payroll expenses.
Okay. So just because the acronyms can get confusing, say the two different acronyms again that we might see out there.
EIDL.
Okay.
And that's the one you're looking at for a 30-year term.
Mm-hmm.
And then your PPP.
Okay.
And that's your payroll or your paycheck protection program.
Okay. And then you mentioned, I think earlier, that every bank is not necessarily doing these things, but I mean, are we going to assume that most are, or is it going to be hard to find a bank that can work sort of these SBA loans with you?
So on the SBA website, there is a list that'll break down all the banks, working with the SBA on this.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that, in regards to the payroll protection program, that's the one that's, being worked on with the banks. The EIDO is with the SBA itself.
Okay.
So, totally separate.
Okay, great. Well, is there anything else that you think people on here might want to know? What might be important for them to know right now?
I mean, just make sure, you're getting this information quickly to the banks, because like I said, the application begins, or the processing begins tomorrow.
Okay.
So it's, there's a certain amount, I think it was like 349 billion or so. So funds are limited. And again, that's another reason I've kind of been pushing people to also apply for the EIDL.
Okay, good. Great. Well, Sam, thanks for joining us today. I think that information, it's great to get stuff like this out into the community. Thanks for taking some time with us today.
Sure.
So as promised, here's a couple tips and tricks for working from home. So we're working from home for 30 more days. I'm going to be honest, when I heard that over the weekend, I was less than excited. So you guys, I have 4 kids and my wife, and we are all at home. And so I've barricaded myself in my bedroom to be able to do work and Zoom calls and things like that. So working from home, some of the things we've been trying to do is at Straight Edge, we've been trying to keep our team engaged. And honestly, the best way we've come up with how to do that is, we do Zoom calls like the one that you're on right now. We get as many boxes full with people's faces. I think our team likes being able to see each other and keep track of, kind of, hey, this person still works here, even though I don't see him every day anymore. So keeping your team engaged is a big thing to work through over the next 30 days while your people are at home. And then be resourceful. So we've taken an opportunity to look at hey, we're working in a different way. There's some things that we can't do for our clients that we normally are able to do, but what are some things we can do? So focus on being resourceful on what tasks and projects that we actually can work on right now, while we're all working remote or working from home. So that's been a good thing for our team that we've been trying to keep track of. So I had this idea. My kids are small, so I've got a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old. Sat them down at dinner and said, "Hey guys, Dad's working at home. But that doesn't mean that he's available. Like I'm here, but not here, right? And so we came up with some hand signals that I can give if they come in the room that I'm working in and want to talk. And you know, it's funny when I read Doug's hand signals, they're all appropriate, no inappropriate hand signals. Basically, just hey, like I'm on the phone, or you know, I'm on the phone. Stop, wait, quiet. I mean, just normal hand signals to try to give them some, you know, confidence that, hey, it's fine to come talk to me right now. I'm just in the middle of an email or something, or hey, I'm actually talking to somebody. Probably don't want to be bothered right now. So come up with some hand signals, coordinate with your family. I was talking to a friend yesterday, and they basically came up with a strategy of, you know, there's some office hours, and then there's some quiet time, and throughout the house as far as when people are, you know, wanting to work. The wife of the family was very funny. She was like, I love working from home. I'm not crazy about my coworkers, was her comment. So there you go. Lastly, something that we've been encouraging our team to do to stay focused and to get some things done even though they're at home is time blocking. So I don't know if this is a concept that you guys are familiar with, but basically you're trying to plan out your entire day at the beginning of the day. So you go from your to-do list with all of your high-level priorities, and you're going to try to set aside the things that are most important for you to do today. I don't know what it is about working from home, but since my routine is thrown off, this was something that I've had to work through, you know, pretty detailed to try to make sure that I only work on the stuff I really need to work on and not get distracted. To stay sane, I went ahead and set aside what I call deep tasks and shallow tasks. So, you know, there's probably things on your to-do list that are things that take 10 or 15 minutes or less, and there's probably things that need a lot of focus. And so separate your time out so that you can spend sometimes on deep focused items and sometimes on just shallow, quick things. You know, if you're like me, you like to scratch things off the to-do list and see that at the end of the day, you actually got some things done. So keep those things in mind and block those into your time. And then you make all those tasks fit into the week. These items are literally going into my Outlook calendar with do this at this time, do this at this time, do this at this time. Helps me stay focused, helps me stay, you know, kind of on task for the week, and keep track of all the things that I have to get done, because it's different. It's different working from home than being able to work in the office with my coworkers and planning time to talk and planning time for Zoom calls and things like that. And then lastly, if you know me and you've ever been to any of my other presentations on anything, I'm just big about making a plan. Even if it's not a very good plan, having some kind of plan is better than no kind of plan. So taking some of that time at the beginning of the week or at the beginning of each day to try to make a plan and plan out the rest of your day, it's going to go a long way to you still feeling productive. You know, we're still trying to keep the wheels on. We're still trying to keep the car going down the road, even though sort of the way that we're working right now is different, and we have a lot, you know, things we can do and things we can't do, but we want to make a plan and try to work against those things. I was going to go ahead and open it up. If anybody has any questions, you can unmute your microphone, or should be able to unmute your microphone and ask any questions. If anybody has any questions about working from home or technology that we use to work from home, or if anybody has any questions for Ben or Sam while they're still on the call, I'd be more than happy to field some of those right now. So we'll give about a minute here if anybody has a question, or if you want me to ask the question, you can enter it in the chat function of Zoom, and I can ask Ben or Sam those questions if you would like. So I'll give you guys a minute.
Hey, Doug, I had someone ask me, and this is probably a question for Sam, that they had heard that even though they were going to get this loan, it was going to be forgiven, that they were still going to have to like pay taxes or have it reported, or, you know, they were confused and they weren't sure that that was something, they weren't sure if it was true or not.
As in, so when you're saying pay taxes, what exactly are you talking about?
Like pay taxes on the loan amount, or have it be penalized in some way or another is what they were thinking.
No, there's no penalty for, you know, if the loan for some reason doesn't get forgiven and then you end up paying it off. There's no prepayment penalty. You don't pay taxes on loans. So I'm thinking maybe they're talking about showing as an income, maybe, but that shouldn't be the case. So yeah, I mean, if you do the work, so after the I think it's, like I said, 6 to 8 months. I can't recall off the top of my head, but after that time frame is when they can start looking at to make sure you did use those funds for payroll, utilities, rent. If you show the proper material, for instance, payroll reports, utility bills, rent coming out from that income, then it'll be forgiven, and that's that. So if for some reason you end up not having the loan forgiven on the PPP right now, the rate is 0.5%, and the term is 2 years to pay that deal off.
We had one question come in here from the chat. So one of the questions, and it's a great question. We got this same question just about every customer we have that has people work from home is how do you know that people are actually working when they're working from home? And so last week we talked about a couple of things, but we, in my opinion, this is my opinion of how to do it. So there are some technical tools out there that you could implement that would like track and monitor what someone's doing on their computer every minute of the day. So that is an option. Those tools are kind of expensive, but if you really want to know there was this much web browsing and there was this much time spent in Excel and this much time on Word, like you can get down to that level of detail. What we've been encouraging people to do is just change the management style a little bit. And the idea is that if I can set some goals for the day, kind of like what we were talking about, if I can set some goals for the day or some deliverables for every day, and then get those deliverables at the end of every day, then I know that the person did the work that I needed them to do. And then to go along with that, we want to try to minimize the amount of micromanagement on also though. Like we don't want to be instant messaging or emailing or texting our staff all day long. Hey, have you done this yet? Hey, have you done this yet? Hey, have you done this yet? That also can get kind of frustrating and interruptive. And so what I've been trying to do as much as I can is, I want to have a conversation about what we need done, and then I'm going to just wait. And then when I get that information back, I'm going to know that, hey, they had to spend some time to do that work. I know that they're getting work done. I think because everybody right now, wants to be productive, and doesn't want to just be goofing off at home. I'm hoping that what we see is people, wanting to show their employer that they are being productive at home. And despite the fact that this is a really odd, weird situation, that, they're still trying to help the company be successful, and they're still trying to kind of get through this, this issue of how we work from home. Because that is a real concern, is that people that aren't used to working from home, I mean, it's likely that some people are at home playing video games when they're supposed to be working. But hopefully if there's still work getting done, if you're still tracking the deliverables the same way you would as if they were in the office, then that stuff is getting done. At our company, we track we have a ticketing system that keeps track of all of the work orders that are getting completed. And that system works nearly in real time, and our staff works those tickets in real time. So I can go look at our normal dashboard, and honestly, our dashboard doesn't look much different right now than it did before we were all working from home. So, at a minimum, I know that our technical staff is getting about the same amount of work done that they were getting done before. In some cases, they're getting more done. We've had a pretty big influx of tickets that have come in with people working from home. There's lots of challenges technically with people working from home. And so we've seen an increase in the volume of tickets for end users that are having problems working from home. But, we can go look at that sort of report of production, if you will. Here's how many things we got done for the day. And it's the same way we measure it when we're in the office. And then really it's our communication with our staff that's changed. We've a lot more instant messenger instead of talking, and a lot more, big group Zoom, calls as well. And yeah, you don't have to use Zoom either. I'll send out a link for the webinar we did last week, and it had a couple other options for video conferencing and collaboration. Some you might already have access to right now. For instance, Microsoft Teams has some video and collaboration tools that are easy, and you already have them if you're using Office 365. So you don't have to go buy or do something new right now. But that's a great question. If anybody, we were trying to keep these webinars short. People are busy, and Honestly, we want to just get information out there succinct. So that's about all we had planned for today. If anybody has any more questions, go ahead and shoot. And otherwise, we'll go ahead and wrap up. Doesn't look like it. Well, great. Well, I want to thank Ben and Sam again for joining. Thanks for y'all's support and your help and information. It was awesome to have you on the call. And thanks everybody for joining. And we'll go ahead and record this and we'll post it out there. If you want to send it to your folks that weren't able to join, please do. Like I said, we're just trying to help our community get some of this information out and then answer any tech questions that people have along the way. So thanks everybody. Bye.